And if only we could find something to put under the car, something that would give us traction.
I know where this is going.
Get us out of here.
Why did they have to go to the guy's garage? Sorry about your nuts, dude. That is the worst day a zombie may be reanimated.
Just let the poor guy die.
That's just mean. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Jefferson County, Colorado's premier podcast on the symbiotic relationship between alcohol consumption and low-budget flicks, the Booze, Bullshit, and B-Movies podcast. We're happy to have you with us again as we dive to the depths of the streaming services to find entertainment in unlikely places. I'm Brandon, and I'm joined here in the basement by the other half of this dynamic duo, my good friend Steve.
Hey, everybody.
How you doing, Steve? How are you guys surviving the cold snap over at your place?
It's fucking cold, dude. At least it was not so bad today. So I was supposed to do field work on Monday when it was like minus 150, and thank God my excavator decided, you know what, why don't we push it back to Tuesday? And I said, thank you very much.
Yeah, it has been chilly lately, and I was surprised that they canceled school today.
I was too, because I had to be down in eastern Douglas County by like 10:30 or 11 this morning, and it was pleasant. I mean,
yeah, it was shitty this weekend.
I was in a knee-deep freaking snowdrifts, but the sun was out.
If they'd had school yesterday, sure, that makes sense, because it was cold as fuck.
Yeah.
But today was perfectly nice.
Yeah. Monday was miserable. It was miserable. It was, it didn't get above zero, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. We found out today, we got a call from Libby's school that they're canceled tomorrow because they had a pipe burst in the cold this weekend.
Well, and you know what? I think that's what one of the excuses Jefferson County was using was so that they would have time to go through and check for stuff like that.
Could be.
Safety of the kids.
Yeah, for sure.
They didn't do that shit when I was a kid.
No, they didn't really care. Well, at your age, they probably made you hide under a desk when they thought a nuclear explosion was going to go off.
Funny enough, I was near a sack base when I was growing up, so... We did have I am from Central Ohio, and I was in kindergarten, first grade. I think it's kindergarten it was first grade during the blizzard of 1978, which we had. It was like February 1978.
Okay.
Columbus, Ohio, we got like 3 or 4 feet of snow.
Oh wow,
that's a shit ton of snow.
That is a lot of snow.
That's a lot of snow here. That's a big ton of snow in the Midwest.
For sure.
Like we were off school for at least a week, if not more than that. It was so much that we ended up having to go to school on Saturdays through the spring to make up. We had missed so many days. We had gone past the allotted snow days. So yeah, it was fun, but I mean, going to school on Saturdays kind of sucked.
I bet.
But you're young and you like going to school. But your week, I think, however, has gone less well.
Why is that?
The last 24 hours of yours has probably been full of heartache here in the Rebel household.
Oh, no, not at all. I don't know how familiar you are with Philadelphia Eagles fans, but this is not unexpected.
I figured I'd have to talk you off the ledge.
No. The Eagles, we resigned ourselves to this outcome weeks ago. So
fair enough. Not even with Kelsey leaving? Retired?
Well, that part is disappointing, but whatever. Great player.
Yep.
Super cool guy. But again, I mean, they've been talking about replacing him for years. And it's time. I mean, I don't know if you watched his documentary he did on Amazon.
I did not.
This is something he's been thinking about for years and just trying to find the right time.
Yeah, I did know that.
His body's falling apart on him. And so, yeah, good for him. Yeah. I'm happy for the guy.
Yep. He's good to go out somewhat on top. On your own accord, I guess.
For sure. Yeah.
As a pro athlete, that's pretty rare.
It would have been nice to send him off with something more than an ass kicking, but...
Yeah, that looked pretty bad. They looked as bad on defense as my Buckeyes did on offense in the Sugar Bowl. So
I didn't watch the Buckeyes game, but it must have been awful.
Well, they were pathetic.
And then you had to watch Michigan win the championship.
Cheating bastards. They'll be vacating that. And get to celebrate their 1,000th victory again here in a couple seasons when they're eligible again.
Sure. Well, and by that time, Harbaugh will be off onto the NFL. So
yeah, did you see they were? Rumor has it he's in contract negotiations with Michigan, and he's trying to get a clause in there that if he gets in trouble with the NCAA for what's going on, he will not get fired for it.
The Connor Stallions clause.
Yeah. So I mean, nothing says I'm purely innocent like you need a clause that if the NCAA finds me guilty, you can't fire me. So. And due to the weather, I ended up not going to St. Louis to watch Emma play this weekend. So
that's not good.
That kind of sucked. But she got sick and didn't play very much anyway. So, it was not a wasted trip.
Yeah.
So
we ended up picking up a new vehicle this week, and it's one of those electric hybrids. Mm-hmm. And electric vehicles don't all have the same plugs in them.
Yes.
Which seems crazy to me. I don't understand why, and I know we've had this conversation before, but I really don't get why people who think that their technology is meant to save the world would intentionally set themselves behind by making everything incompatible.
Well, it's like Apple went and using that lightning connector instead of the USB-C like everybody else until
and they eventually got beat down on it.
Yeah, Europe beat them down, so hopefully that'll come here.
But you would think that the car manufacturers would see something like that happen and just be like, you know what, it makes the most sense. If this is going to be the wave of the future, that we're going to create the infrastructure to make it work right.
You answered your own question right there. I also heard today that Hertz, the rental company, selling off. No, they're selling off 20,000 electric vehicles because the demand wasn't there for rentals and the maintenance cost was higher than anticipated.
Yeah, we rent vehicles, 2 or 3 times a year, and there was always a thing on Hertz if you'll take this electric car, we'll take money off, we'll do this, we'll do that. And
yeah, I mean, I got nothing against electric cars, but I would be hesitant to rent one because you're not really familiar with the whole charging procedure and where you can get it done. And
oh, sure, you got to plan ahead for that.
Yeah, and you don't know the hoops you got to jump through to be able to do it. So it's that would cause me to pause. I know we've had the option a couple times. Renting down in Phoenix, SEM, but we haven't done it. But we're not driving much down there, so that wouldn't be too bad of an option to try one time. But the hotels all have some sort of charging port.
Sure, and ours is the one we picked up is a plug-in hybrid, so it only gets you 19 miles on the charge, and then it's got a regular 18-gallon gas tank. So it's more for just getting back and forth to the grocery store, that kind of thing.
Is this that minivan you rented, or did you buy one?
No, we bought something else.
Oh, okay.
Similar. Well, not really
Hell freezes over and Brandon buys a hybrid.
Yeah, pretty much. In other podcast-related news, I just want to quick mention something that's new to our Spotify homepage. I don't know how Spotify decides these things, how the algorithm works, or whatever qualifies you for whatever. But we now have a button on the podcast page that says, support this podcast.
Sweet. We don't have to work anymore.
Well, we're not quite there yet.
Ah, damn it.
But if anyone listening here knows some sort of eccentric billionaire who has a thing for low-budget movies, let them know, and they can give us however much money they want.
Yeah.
If anyone else wants to send us a 99-cent donation, we promise to only spend it on alcohol.
Yes.
2 99-cent donations would get Steve and I each a little mini shooter of Fireball, and we will happily do a toast in your honor.
That's right. You'll get a shout out on the cast.
And as we mentioned before, there are several other avenues to send us messages if you like. Our DMs are open, messengers are open, and you can also click a thing on the Spotify homepage to leave us a voice message.
Oh, interesting.
If you leave us a voice message and it's interesting or funny or clever, I'll include it in the podcast.
Or hell, even if it's the first one, it's on there pretty much regardless. Because
that's true. It would have
the first one.
Because we are more than happy to make your content our content.
That's right.
With that out of the way, tonight we are going to check out what is probably the most anticipated sequel in the history of this podcast.
Well, on at least one side of the table.
Dead Snow 2, Red vs. Dead.
There you go.
I know I've been looking forward to this. The last few weeks have been hard on me because I have been waiting to watch this movie. And I know the Nazi zombie thing is more my wheelhouse, but I've been anxiously waiting for this.
Brandon was wanting to watch this immediately after he watched Dead Snow. In fact, he wanted to watch it that night, I think.
So it's been since episode 3.
Yep.
How excited are you, Steve, for Tommy Vercola's continuation in the Nazi drug
Somewhat less than you are.
genre?
I enjoyed Dead Snow, the first Dead Snow. I've got an open mind on it. It's gonna be tough to top Samurai Cop, but
That's true. That was a very good movie.
we'll give her a shot though. It's be our first sequel, so hey.
Surprisingly enough, in the 8 or 9 now episodes we've done of this, most of the movies have been pretty good.
Yeah, well,
Except for Wrong Cops.
Except for Wrong Cops and Apocalypse.
Although, now that you mention it, based on our Spotify analytics, the Apocalypse episode is our most listened to episode.
I'm sorry, folks. Well, you know what? No, let me take that back. I'm not sorry you listened to it, because by listening to our episode, you may have saved yourself from watching that damn movie.
That's true. You're welcome.
Yeah, you hit that 99-cent thing. No, we're just kidding. We don't care about that.
Yeah, no.
Dead Snow 2. This is the follow-up of 2009's Dead Snow. This bad boy was released October 7th of 2014. Comes in at a girthy 1 hour, 40 minutes, so just a little bit above our normal.
Well, this movie is outside our normal on length and budget.
Oh,
We're kind of going outside our parameters here for this block.
So don't steal my thunder here. The budget of this bad boy. Now, keep in mind, Dead Snow 1 had a budget of 800,000 American dollars. Dead Snow 2, Red vs. Dead, 35 million Norwegian krona, or 3.5 million US. Nothing to sneeze about.
No, that's like 64 trillion Vietnamese dong.
Yeah. In my research, I found out that the reason Tommy was able to get the budget for this up to 3.5 million was he had done the Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, and that had a huge budget, like $20 million or something.
It was Jeremy Renner was in it. It's other like relatively
like a real
famous
movie.
American actors,
right? And so that got him, the ability to increase this budget a little bit, but it kind of backfired on him because he only made $1.1 million as the box office receipt, so he didn't cover his costs on this one. We'll see what happens. Ratings wise, this is actually pretty highly regarded on IMDb. It's got a 6.8 out of 10. The last few have not been that high, that's for darn sure. Metacritic's a little bit lukewarm on it at a 59% approval, or 59. I'm not sure how their metric works. I think it's 0 to 100. And then it's got an 81% fresh on the Rotten Tomatoes tomato meter. So there we go. Again, this is directed and written by Tommy Wirkola. And he had some help in the writing department with Geir Viggo Hoel and Stig Frode Henriksen. I don't know if it's Frode or Frode, but anyway, let's see. So our stars, we've got Geir Viggo Hoel as Martin. So he has 47 acting credits, and he is returning in that role of Martin from Dead Snow #1. And then old Stig Henriksen there, he comes in as Glenn Kenneth, and they have him returning from Dead Snow #1 as well.
Are these people returning as the same characters, or are they just actors playing
Martin's
different roles?
the same character.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Stig listed as 2 different characters in 2 different places. One was Glenn Kenneth was his role in the first one.
Okay.
So I changed it from what I had seen. I think on IMDb it's got him as like, I don't know, Matt or Rob or something like that. So take this one with a grain of salt. It may be right, it may be not. We're dealing with the information we can glean from the internets, and we know that those are always correct. And then we got Orjan Gomst as Herzog. So he is returning, playing the same character as well. And then we've got our old friend Martin Starr coming in as Daniel. And you may remember Martin from he was Bill in There's Something in the Barn. So he was the dad in There's Something in the Barn.
And he had the Norwegian cousin.
Yes.
That is apparently getting him in with all these Norwegian flicks.
Apparently so. Jocelyn de Boer, who plays Monica, she had a bunch of TV credits. She did a couple episodes on, I think it's Prime, either Prime or Netflix did BoJack Horseman. It's a cartoon about about a horse who was an actor, kind of like had a hit show back in the late 80s, early 90s, and now it's, modern times, and he's down on his luck and whatnot.
But still living off that reputation.
Living off that reputation. It's pretty good, actually. And then we got Ingrid Haas as Blake. She was on on Key and Peele, an episode of that as Mom Zombie. So we think that whole former zombie role got her in the door here. And then we've got Halvard Holman as Gunga. He was in the Shackleton miniseries, which I think was on AMC. That was pretty good, about the explorer Shackleton. You remembering? Familiar with him? He was trying to explore, I believe it was Antarctica, and boat got stuck in the ice, and they were stuck there for like 2 years. Oh, okay. This is back in the late early 1900s when explorers went off and they were gone for God knows how long, and they may be alive and they were not. And they ended up surviving. A bunch of them survived, but it was a pretty cool miniseries about that.
Well, what I would like to know is why they didn't use his character's full name, because it must be Gunga Galunga.
Well, you would hope, but this is the information I was given.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Then we got Amarita Akaria, and she, I believe, is playing Raiden. She was in 13 episodes of Game of Thrones, so I think it was like season 2. So, that's got a little bit of chops there. And then we got Derek Mears as Stavarian, and he actually, in the 2009 version of Friday the 13th, played Jason Voorhees.
And as we can tell, we've got some legitimate actors. We're going to have some legitimate action, I think.
I believe most of these are legitimate Norwegian actors, not a lot of play in the States. A couple taglines that came up for this bad boy were, heads up, they're back. And the sequel you did not see coming.
Ooh, clever.
Dad joke. And then for our fun facts, I'm going to reiterate this from our first time, so in case you didn't remember, but the Nazi zombies in this film are a combination of typical zombies in popular culture and ancient Norse mythological beings known as the Draug. An undead being that would inhabit graves, often the graves of important men, as they often had treasures in them. A Draug would protect these treasures as if they were their own. And then, so this, unlike the first one, this, which was filmed all in Norwegian, I think there were a few lines of English, but it was subtitles galore. This one was filmed in both Norwegian and English at the same time, so that I think we're not reading subtitles tonight.
Oh, well, that'll be nice.
So they would shoot a scene and do it in Norwegian, and they would shoot a scene and do it in English. So this one, they left the homeland and went and filmed it in Iceland, so this was not filmed in Norway. I saw an interview with Tommy saying that by filming in Iceland, their film industry is a bit more advanced, and they had a lot of people with more Hollywood experience. Okay. So they were able to get way more bang for their $3.5 million, and they had a kind of a tight schedule and were able to get things shot and in the can. And he said that it was also good that.
Would you like it in the can?
Yeah, it was also good
I'll drink it here.
That apparently Icelanders have a similar bloodlust. Yeah. Those are Tommy's words, not mine. So, and then we've got many of the zombies were MMA fighters. Tommy found it really easy to direct them as they were willing to perform showy stunts and go crazy. And then we've got Orjan Gamst is the lead singer of the Norwegian black metal band Slogstorm, and they have 49 monthly visitors on Spotify. And here's their number one song. And that's enough of that. On to our critical reviews. Josh Winning a Total Film says, tipping its hat to the Evil Dead and Peter Jackson's early gore flicks, our favorite bad taste. Dead Snow 2 is a 90-minute symphony of skull-splitting sight gags, each one more revolting than the last. And then Robert Albee of the LA Times says, as bad taste splatter comedies go, Dead Snow 2 is one of the more charitably nutty ones. Less about gorging on gore than reveling in how silly the whole genre can be. Then we've got Matthew Dessem from The Dissolve.
It says the makeup is really all there is to look at, visually speaking. The film is aggressively uninteresting. But beyond all Dead Snow 2's flaws, it's important not to lose sight of the fact that it has undead soldiers in Soviet and Nazi uniforms straight up swinging pickaxes at each other. So, with the bad comes the good. Simon Abrams from RogerEbert.com, now note that Roger did not review this, but Simon did. It's for horror nuts only, but if you can see it with a rowdy crowd, and I'm going to ad-lib on here a little bit and say rowdy crowd with alcohol, Dead Snow 2 will appreciate exponentially. And then Carrie Darling of the Fort Worth Telegram says, Dead Snow 2 has its share of fun, goofy, gory moments. Half the budget must have gone for fake intestines. You want to give us a plot summary here, Brandon?
I do, but before I do that, I was doing some more reading of the German language reviews of this movie for my own educational purposes. Mm-hmm. And I found a few that were interesting, and one of them I'm going to include in the podcast here.
Alrighty, let's hear it.
So this is from a guy named Sean Toimer at www.moviebreak.de or www.moviebreak.de auf Deutsch. And he says, Moral Apostel werden kopfschüttelnd vor dem Bildschirm sitzen, während diejenigen, die ihr Hirn vorzeitig abgeschaltet haben und dem Alkoholgenuss frönen, aus dem Lachen nicht mehr herauskommen. Dead Snow 2 ist der Partyfilm des Jahres, der kein Blatt vor den Mund nimmt, diskriminierend und bitterböse daherkommt und nichts weiter sein möchte als ein Blut- und Gedärm-Inferno allererster Güte. Now,
I think that's more than the 2 sentences you said it was going to be.
it's German. It was only 2 sentences.
It's only 3 words.
So, but basically what Sean is saying here is that if you are a moralizing type of person, you will shake your head at this movie and not be impressed at all. But if you have shut off your brain and enjoyed some alcohol, you will not stop laughing.
Fair enough.
He says the movie doesn't pull any punches and doesn't want to be anything more than a blood and guts inferno.
Well, there you go.
There was another review that I read that I will not read that said, in this reviewer's opinion, Dead Snow 2 was the best horror comedy since Zombieland, which came out 5 years prior to Dead Snow 2. So,
Interesting.
a little bit of German.
Zombieland is a good flick. His Twinkies are delicious.
And as far as the plot summary goes, if the worst day of your life consisted of accidentally killing your girlfriend with an axe, chainsawing your own arm off, and watching in horror as your closest friends were devoured by a zombified Nazi battalion, you'd have to assume that things couldn't get much worse. But in Martin's case, that was only the beginning.
There we go. If you are so inclined to watch along with us, you can get this for free with ads on Freevee, Plex, Pluto TV, the Roku channel, Tubi, YouTube, and if you have a subscription to Peacock, you can do that. If you choose to pay for it, you can rent it on Prime or on Apple TV. So you've got a plethora of options to watch Dead Snow 2, Red vs. Dead, along with us.
And now, let's head over to the bar and grab these cocktails.
So, Brandon, what are we drinking tonight?
Since we're going to be checking out another Norwegian film, but this time a little Russian influence, and we've kind of played out some of our Norwegian cocktail stuff with the aquavit and other things, we're going to embrace the Russian part of this, and we're just going to have a White Russian.
Alrighty.
And you know me, we're not just going to have your freshman year of college White Russian.
Right.
We're gonna fancy it up a little bit.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is 2 ounces of vodka. And again, we're going to give a shout out to our friends over at Bear Creek Distillery. 2 ounces of a coffee liqueur. And then, rather than just pouring the cream on top, I've got a little frothing device here.
Yes.
I've got a frozen frothing jug and a little bit of vanilla syrup. So I'm going to make a vanilla cream to go on top.
It's a little decadent there, comrade.
It almost feels a little martini-ish to me, but we're going to put it in a rocks glass and go from there.
Fair enough. So again, this is yet another cocktail we're going to do with Precious Little Mixer.
Yes. All right, so we've got our 2 ounces of vodka and 2 ounces of liqueur in our glass. Stir them to chill it, combine it. And then we'll take our frosted frothing jug, just a splash of vanilla syrup. heavy whipping cream in there with that.
So it's low fat.
This is actually a drink that I kind of really got into in like my freshman year of college.
Okay.
And I think a significant portion of my freshman 15 is from the heavy whipping cream. So we're not going for peaks. We're not making whipped cream here. We're just trying to get it a little foamed up.
I know this is compelling audio, folks.
We've got our frothed vanilla heavy cream.
Excellent.
And we're going to float that on top as best we can. And then we'll garnish with some crushed coffee grounds.
Excellent. Looks beautiful.
And there you go. A high-class White Russian.
Classy, classy. Tasty.
Well, if you're a coffee drinker,
Yeah.
I think you like it. This takes me back.
We're both ready for our milk ad. That's good.
It is good, but I don't know. Maybe it's the nostalgia of it, but I'm a fan.
Honestly, I'm not sure I've ever had one of these. As much as I love the Big Lebowski, this is good. I like it.
Well, now that we've got our cocktails, why don't we go over and watch the movie?
Let's do it.
This is the part where we watch the movie. Well, Steve, if we have to go up against a battalion of Nazi zombies, we could do worse than teaming up with a battalion of Russian zombies.
The Russian zombies were pussies.
They got their ass kicked.
They did get their ass kicked.
We need the two hot geeky girls to fight on our side.
Yeah, they were
They were kicked ass.
kicking ass. So to go through the plot here, we just finished watching Dead Snow, Red vs. Dead. Picks up immediately where the first movie left off.
Well, and conveniently they give you a little recap.
They do a quick recap, and then Martin's in the car. He dropped the coin, and then
Fought with Herzog in the car. Herzog was hanging off.
so Martin is escaping. So Herzog got run over by a semi-truck, and then the semi-truck driver comes out and tries to give Herzog mouth to mouth to save his life, and Herzog bites his face off.
Tongue, to be specific.
And then Martin throws the coin out the window of the car and says, whatever, here's your coin, fuck off.
Fuck off.
Then Martin comes to in a hospital, and the police have handcuffed him to the bed, and they blame him for all of the deaths that occurred in the first movie.
His fingerprints were on the axe.
And Martin says, no, I didn't do this. It was the Nazi zombies. And everyone says, Martin, you're full of shit. Mm-hmm. Turns out that after he was found by the police or whoever took him to the hospital, they found an arm in the car with him.
There was conveniently a severed right arm in the car with him.
And they reattached it. Like, well, this guy's missing a right arm. There's an arm in the car. We should just sew it back on. Unfortunately, it was Standartführer Herzog's arm, not his own arm. The zombie arm then goes apeshit and kills the doctor, kills one police officer, and then he is subdued and sedated. And then he comes to, and there's a little boy in the room. Don't know how he got in there.
Well, his mom ate some bad fish.
Yeah, and he's a ninja. So he came in the room.
And a zombie aficionado. Billy takes a picture of the zombie arm and sends it back to the American Zombie Squad.
Yes, the Zombie Squad.
No, it's a real thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, the kid's name was Bobby. Not
was
Billy.
Billy.
No, it's Bobby.
Okay.
Bobby calls the Zombie Squad. Martin's zombie arm grabs Bobby and chucks him through a window.
Through the bars on the window.
So then Martin can escape. It turns out the Zombie Squad is actually just three nerds who live in their parents' basement. They talk to Martin, give some information.
Their names were Daniel, Monica, and Blake.
And so they fly to Norway. They go to a hardware store and they arm up with crowbars and hammers and shovels and pickaxes, and they're going to go fight the zombies. They have never fought a zombie before, never even seen a zombie before.
But they've trained their whole life for it.
But they've been waiting their whole lives for this moment. So as part of the conversation on the phone, the Zombie Squad tell Martin that he has to go somewhere and gather more information on this Herzog and why he's doing what he's doing.
Yeah, because the premise in the first movie was that the zombies were after the Nazi gold. Martin still had one coin in his pocket, and that's why they kept coming after him. Now the idea was in addition to that, they also had some sort of mission to accomplish that they didn't.
Yeah, because they got the gold back and they didn't stop.
Yeah. And I feel like that trope has been used before, and, it's like comes back from the dead because they have a task to finish. That seems to be kind of a popular...
Herzog and his battalion were tasked back in World War II with killing everyone in this town of Talvik, and that's their unfinished mission.
Yeah, because that town of Talbot gave the intelligence to the British to let them sink this big battleship that I believe we talked about that in our Dead Snow 1 episode. That was one of the things this town was known for.
They get together, the zombie squad and Martin, and they find out that Martin, with his zombie arm, can raise dead people too.
Yep, and then enters Sidekick Zombie.
So then Herzog goes marching off for Talvik with his battalion and a tank.
Well, yeah, they ransacked a World War II museum that happened to be there and had a tank with live ammo.
And the zombie squad girls and this guy who works at the World War II museum,
Glenn Kenneth,
decide they're going to go and slow down Herzog and his battalion on their way to Talvik. Herzog finds out that he can't raise the dead like he used to. He can only raise the recently deceased. They go on a killing spree. They're killing people in wheelchairs on a tour group. They're killing anybody they come across.
Yep, all of good town folk.
The zombie squad, girls, and the guy from the museum come across Herzog and his troop as they're marching through this marsh. They slow him down with some pipe bombs. At the same time, Martin and the guy, Daniel from the zombie squad, are on a road trip to go find a cemetery or a battle site with Soviet soldiers.
Yeah. So these were Russian prisoner POWs that were forced labor to build a road through the mountain pass, and then were executed.
They've got a score to settle with Herzog.
Yes,
because Herzog killed them. So they find this place where they all died and were buried in a mass grave. Martin raises these 50 or so Russian soldiers.
Does the sweet superhero pound his fist onto the ground, lightning comes out, and boom!
Because they had realized that when Martin raises a dead person, they become like his servant.
His minion.
Martin's got his troop. Herzog's got his troop. They meet up in the town, and they're going to have their final showdown on some soccer pitch.
On the soccer pitch. Would have been more fitting if it was a rugby pitch. But
the leader of the Russian soldiers, this Stavarin guy, is beating the shit out of everybody.
He's like 2 feet taller than everybody else.
And he is a
Russian bear.
And he is a huge badass. And then, in a part that I didn't really care for, he's beating Herzog's ass, and some random Nazi zombie number 2 gets him in the back with an axe. And then Stavarin falls down, and Herzog hits him in the face with a pickaxe.
Yep, pretty much.
There is blood and guts everywhere. There are
lots and lots of intestines.
Lots of intestines, as maybe more intestines than the first movie.
I think so.
Like, there was the one point where they took the guy's intestines and they used it to siphon the gas out of the bus into the tank so they could operate the tank.
Right.
Which was hilarious.
They chucked some intestines up on an electric line and shocked two of them to death.
And shocked 2 zombies to death that way. Yeah, that was good intestine use.
Yep.
It was very splattery. This final battle continues. Well, they realize they've got to kill Herzog, and then all of the other zombies will then die.
Yeah, like, they figure out that if you are the one that raised the zombie, you've got the power, then they're kind of slave to you, and if something happens to you, they're fucked.
Then Martin gets in the final battle with Herzog.
Yep. Duking it out on the roof of the tank, right?
Well, they started in that house.
Oh,
and there was all kinds of punching and kicking and throwing and whatever, and no one's really making a whole lot of headway.
Yep, and then the tank comes through the house.
And then the tank busts through the house while they're fighting in it, and somehow they both end up on top of the tank. What was the guy's name? Daniel?
Yeah.
He's inside the tank fighting the zombies that are operating the tank, and then he eventually fights the 2 or 3 of them off. And there is the final scene where Martin, he's 95% defeated.
He is about damn dead.
He's laying on the hood of a car after Daniel throws the brakes on the tank. Martin is laying there and he's talking to Herzog. He's like, "Why did you come back? What are you doing?
I gave you your gold. Fuck off.
You got greedy because you're an asshole. And Herzog is standing there looking over him, and slowly the turret of the tank turns and points at the back of Herzog's head.
And Martin says, "You lost the war, and you're about to lose again."
And boom!
Off with his head.
Tank shell shoots his head off into the mountains.
And who called it?
You did. At that point, all of the other zombies just die. They fall to the ground. Everything's over.
And the girls survive.
The girls survive. The Politi show up.
Yeah. So the Politis are kind of the comic relief throughout the whole movie.
There was a police office that shows up here and there throughout the movie. They don't do anything. They don't accomplish anything.
They have big ambitions.
They have plans.
And they really don't like seagulls.
And everything that they do is just sort of foiled.
Yes.
The end of the movie I didn't care for.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Martin, with his power to raise the dead, drives off into the sunset to the cemetery where his girlfriend from the first movie is buried. And he raises her, and they have sex in a van.
Yeah. While Psychic Zombie walks up and looks at them longingly.
Like, this is so beautiful that they're having this moment together.
Yep. And somehow a dead person and a half-dead Martin steam up all the windows in the van. I don't know how that fucking works.
Well, this movie wasn't super worried about the science.
Pshaw.
Steve, what'd you think of this one?
It was better than I thought it was going to be. But let me go back to one thing first. So Zombie Squad is a real thing. It's an organization across the entire United States.
Why are we not members of this organization?
Because I just found out about it yesterday. they're like ZSC, so Zombie Squad Chapter.
Okay.
Colorado is Zombie Squad Chapter number 12.
Ooh.
012.
Okay.
I was chagrined to see that Wisconsin does not have their own Zombie Squad chapter. They're sharing it with Minnesota.
Oh, well, that's bullshit.
And
What's
they're
going on in
number
Wisconsin?
40, and they're number 49. So they're kind of behind the times. I
really?
figured they would be like up there number 1. But this Zombie Squad organization was formed in 2003 in St. Louis. And it's a real fucking thing.
Huh.
You can join Zombie Squad if you want. And that's their real t-shirt that
Oh, really?
that Martin Starr was, or Sturr, what the hell's his name?
Starr, yeah, Martin Starr.
Martin Starr was wearing, so he got permission from the Zombie Squad people. They're like, yeah, hell yeah. And that's their logo, and that's a real thing.
Well, that's some good authenticity.
Yeah.
Good for them.
So there. But back to ratings. I would give this is a top shelf. It was good. Sequels to these B movies can be problematic. It's tough to get lightning in a bottle twice. And a lot of times they're trying too hard in the sequel. And when they try too hard to make it schlocky, then it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
A lot of times. This was good. In some of the interviews I watched with Tommy, he had hinted that they were thinking about making a third movie in the trilogy that would be in Brazil. Because where did the Nazis go? They went to Brazil. So I think we could possibly see a Nazi Hitler there if he gets the money to make it.
Well,
But
look forward to that.
It's been 12 years now since this was made, almost 10 years since this was made.
And it hasn't come out yet.
Hasn't come out yet, so I wouldn't hold my breath.
That ship may have sailed.
So what are your thoughts, Brandon?
I agree with you. I mean, and this is sort of like, well, it's sort of like the movie we watched last week, where, like, in my head, I was having a hard time with the math. I was thinking that, the movie was maybe a 4 on a scale to 5, but we're doing a scale to 3. So if something is a 4 on a scale to 5, it is comfortably in the top third.
Sure.
That's just numbers. So yeah, I would also give this a top shelf. I don't think that I liked it as well as the first one.
It was funnier. I think it was funnier.
Well, I think that maybe that scene at the end really just aggravated me.
Yeah, I would say, you lop off those last 4 minutes of the film.
And it was a lot better.
It's a lot better.
But yeah, so it was all the same stuff that I liked from the first one. There were tons of blood, there were tons of guts, there were funny jokes. There was the thing where they needed something, the car got stuck in the mud,
Yeah.
and they needed something to give some more traction to the tires, so they laid the sidekick zombie down, and they ran the sidekick zombie's crotch over with the car, and, you know, there was all kinds of those sorts of jokes.
I feel bad for Sidekick
The
Zombie.
sidekick zombie had the worst job in the entire movie.
Yep.
So I think this is a clear top shelf movie for me, but I'm not sure if I liked it as well as the first one.
I think I liked it a little bit better, minus the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. I think if you take that last 5 minutes out, then yes, I would say it's better than the
Because
first
that
one.
had more like of a Shaun of the Dead feel to it than
Yeah.
the first one did. Or, you know, Super Troopers, or, you know, the more of the humor to go with the splattery, which I think is in these type of movies, if they can not take themselves as seriously, sometimes it works better.
Yeah, and like the jokes they made in this movie, you know, unlike Samurai Cop, where the funny bit was because it was so bad that it was unintentional.
Right.
Like they were trying to make jokes here, they were trying to do things that were funny, and it actually landed.
Yes.
So you have to give them credit for that.
Except for the undercover cop part. That was fucking funny. That one landed. Anyway.
So yeah, the movie was a top shelfer. If they were to make a third movie, I think we'd probably have to have the first trilogy episode for this podcast.
Yep.
But
I think before that happens, we'd probably watch the Star Wars episodes 1, 2, and 3 as shitty B movies.
yeah, that's probably true. If they make a third one of these, the budget will be way outside of what we're comfortable with. All right, Steve, do you have any more thoughts about the movie for tonight?
No, that was a big bite of coffee beans I just had for my last bit of my Russian Near.
What do you think of the White Russians?
I like it.
If you've never had them before.
They are very rich.
Yeah, they are a heavy cocktail.
Yeah. We've had 3, I think.
Yeah, thereabouts.
That's probably 3 Schnitzengrubens is my limit. Not from an intoxicated standpoint, but just what your stomach can handle.
Yeah.
They're good, though. I like them. I will definitely have one of these again.
Well, so I guess that will do it for tonight's episode. We thank everyone for joining us. We do appreciate the time you all spend listening to us talk about these.
Yeah, I am humbled to know that there are 20-odd people that listen to us ramble and share our love for these type of movies, or maybe just love for us.
Maybe that might be part of it.
You know, we
But
appreciate you.
But if you are enjoying the podcast, remember to like, subscribe, follow, support, review the pod, whatever else. And send us a message at some point through any of our social media outlets. We'd be happy to hear from you all.
Yep, we're still waiting for somebody to reach out to us so they can be the first shout out.
Yeah, that would be great. I would be very interested to hear the first person other than us that had something to say here.
Yep.
Steve, do you have an idea what we're going to watch next week?
We're going to watch a movie called Severance. And it's just because it's got a decapitated guy on the one sheet. So I don't know anything about it yet. I haven't looked at it other than it looks kind of funny. So
I do know that it's a movie that's from the UK. So much like, I guess, the Vikings of the 8th and 9th centuries, we're going to hop from Norway across the North Sea and see what the UK's got to offer. Until next week, I'm Brandon.
And I'm Steve.
And to quote Sheriff Bart, Auf Wiedersehen, baby.
Out.